We are avoiding Tucker Kraft at his draft cost, but there are many other young tight ends that could break out this season. We reveal the rest of our tight end fantasy rankings for 2025 on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We are finishing our positional rankings today. We have gone through quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers. We went through our top 10 tight ends on yesterday's show. And today we're going to finish up our tight end rankings. Now, some of these guys we're going to go through, we're ranking them as a top 20 guy because we know they're going to finish there as some of these veterans. But that doesn't mean we want to draft them, right? Like if we know a guy like Dallas Goedert's going to be the tight end 13, like there's no upside. But don't worry, we're going to also talk through a lot of guys that do have upside. These rookies maybe could be in a really great position to break out in year one, or second year players who might get another chance. So we're going to talk through some guys that we're not so much interested in veterans, and then some guys that we very much are and taking a shot late, especially if you're in a tight end premium league or two tight end, or you just want to stash another tight end that you think could break out. But let's start right here at the top after our top 10. So reminder, yesterday we already talked about our tight end 11 because I had Tyler Warren as my tight end 9 and he's your tight end 11. And then I have Jake Ferguson as my tight end 11. He was your tight end 9. So already talked about that yesterday. You can go back and listen. But next up at tight end 12, I have Tucker Kraft and you have him at tight end 14. We are both lower on him than his average draft position at tight end 10. He was a tight end 12 in average scoring last year with 7 receiving touchdowns on a team that desperately needed, targets. Luke Musgrave, his counterpart tight end guy that they were both drafted in the same year, was hurt most of the season. They added wide receiver Matthew Golden in the first round. And I'm sorry, like he only had 4 weeks last year that he was even a top 12 tight end in scoring in those weeks. I think he's overrated. People are like really excited for him. There were so many bad games.
Yeah, I think this whole range that's why everyone was so quick to put those tight ends in order. If you missed the top 10 breakdown, check that out. But that whole Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta tier with the extension of TJ Hawkinson, then maybe the 1B or 1C Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and David Njoku, because everyone doesn't know what's coming next after that. And look, Tucker Kraft is ranked really high. I have no interest in drafting him. Like, again, the environment doesn't say he's going to see a lot of key targets in this offense, and Musgrave is there. They don't have many vacated targets. You added Golden, who's going to see a lot downfield. Now, things might change a little bit. Maybe that's coming into play with the Jaden Reed injury. We'll see with him. But then Jordan Love is hurt, too. So this is just not a great offense that I want to be attached to, especially at a extra position, right? I mean, I still think about maybe Josh Jacobs if he fell a little bit, but I just don't want to be part of the Packers offense too much here this season. And Tucker Kraft is definitely not where I want to go. The numbers just don't say a lot is going to be available for him to improve from what he did. And just really statistically, they don't have the ball to go around to all these people to give you the numbers that you're looking for. So I think he is more of a default. Hey, we're ranking him here to let you know that's around where he's going to go. But I basically have scratched him out. I'm not going to take him anywhere this season. I'll just reveal that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, in the 11 games that he didn't catch a touchdown, he averaged 4.9 points per game in half PPR. He's getting buzz, he's getting hype, and I think people are like being like, "Oh, you can wait and draft Tucker Kraft." I'm just not doing that. He's still my tight end 12. I'm sure he'll come into some touchdowns, but I'm really not interested in him. Now, Your tight end 12 is Zach Ertz, but we'll get to him a little later because we have a pretty big gap of difference about him. So we'll talk about those differences in a little bit. But we are similar on your tight end 13, Dallas Goedert. I have him at tight end 14. That's just where he's going to land, right? I mean, somewhere right around there. He was tight end 11 in average scoring in 2024, tight end 12 in 2023. He typically misses a few games each season. He gets hurt. And, they're a run-heavy offense. They have all of a sudden a really good defense. We'll see if that can keep up. And then he has to compete between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith as the top two guys. Now, if A.J. Brown has to miss time, sure, he could have games. But he just isn't consistent enough for me, and there's really no upside. Maybe you can have one blow-up game a year, but upside over the whole season, there really just is none.
Yeah, some players are consistently inconsistent. He's inconsistently consistent, if that makes sense, where in certain games, where he's going to produce because they need a third target or it's a tough matchup for one of the wide receivers, and it's an easier matchup for him to stretch the field. I mean, that is the exact environment where Dallas Goedert produces in. And there are some games like that where he has to step up, and he can be special with the downfield catching ability. Like, he is a kind of athletic field stretching type tight end, but that can be hard in fantasy, right? I mean, we've seen it a little bit with Luke Musgrave, like he hasn't been fully healthy to take advantage of it, but he would be that type of tight end if he was healthy, and then that's very sporadic, right? You need to get the matchup just right to stretch your field down the middle of the field. This team is very fine throwing to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and running the ball. They're content in doing that, so there's going to be very specific matchups where Dallas Goedert delivers, and then he doesn't score. That's a big problem. Like, he's never been a very good red zone tight end. I think he's a better reality tight end. Like, he's kind of an interesting one because he's a decent blocker and he can stretch the field. But that's about it with Dallas Goedert. He's getting a little older. Even the Eagles are slowly looking beyond what they want with Dallas Goedert. So again, he's another one I'm not paying the table for. Like, if it push came to shove and I was worried about some of the upside guys later and I waited on tight end, I might take Dallas Goedert just to have a guy and then see what happens with my next pick. But I'm not targeting necessarily as the singular starter and feeling good about it.
Now, Dalton Kincaid, we both have him as a tight end 15. That's exactly where he's going in average draft position as tight end 15. He was a tight end 22 in average scoring last year after being the tight end 14 in average scoring in his 2023 rookie season. Maybe it was the injuries last year. He did deal with a bunch of knee injuries, and then he's already dealing with a knee injury this offseason, though. It's hard to figure out what to do with him. We were really excited, him as a first-round pick, going to the Bills. The Bills desperately need like a top target on this team that can be a difference maker. I just don't know if that's going to be Kincaid. He's had 2 career games with more than 11 fantasy points, and that was a 15-point game and a 13-point game. And they both happened in 2023. So not a single one of those games last year. I don't know where it happens. Maybe his touchdowns can blow up with Josh Allen, but 2-2 his first 2 years in the league. I don't think it's going to happen for him.
Yeah, it's very strange with Dalton Kincaid because they kind of needed him, but they haven't used him. And they've also had to have him split time with Dawson Knox. And then they're like, okay, let's go get Keon Coleman. Let's get some other receivers. Maybe it's just not something that's happening between him and Josh Allen. Like, the connection isn't there. There's other guys who can come through. There's all kinds of things that are happening, right? So I don't know if they've ever worked him in well to the offense. The offense has also changed since he's gotten there, from the Ken Dorsey situation to what we have with Joe Brady. So I don't know if that's favored him as well. So I don't know. Like, he used a first-round pick on him. He's very much becoming Kyle Pitts 2.0, like a very high first-round pick. And then, again, to counter that, you have Bowers, Laporta, and McBride who are doing it at various draft picks. But these guys you expected to do more. I hope this does not bode poorly here for Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, but he should be doing more. He's not. They don't know how to use him exactly. He has to split tight end duties a lot of the time when he's out in the field. And they're moving on with more receivers like Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer that are getting involved here with Khalil Shakir. So I'm out on Kincaid. Like, if people want to take him, that's fine, and are still desperately hoping for the upside. But Michelle, I had a lot of teams last year, and he was like the most frustrating, weakest player to have. I was just give me 5 for 40, and I'll be happy. Just give me 5 catches for 40 yards, and I'm just going to be through the roof. And when he scored, it was like a celebration. It was like worth doing something. I don't want Dalton Kincaid kind of making me have that frustration again. And look, a lot of people probably already feel that way about Kyle Pitts. I think if one more year of disappointment, I think that's going to happen with Kincaid.
Now, you may have noticed I skipped my tight end 13, and it's because it's a shocking name, and I'm going to wait to reveal that name until after our break.
All right, this episode, as Michelle told you, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Now, it's really easy because you can link all your accounts to Monarch and immediately spot things that you may not know you're spending on, like subscriptions or food delivery. Canceling those things alone saves you a lot of money every month, and you won't see that unless you're using Monarch Money. And Monarch Money makes it simple to review your finances with your partner, so it easily can help you all see budgets, goals, and spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNFL. Okay, Michelle, let's continue. And we do have some surprises here at the bottom of our tight end ones, which is the top 12 / borderline top 13. So you teased a name that everyone is interested in. I think more so as a sleeper, but you have him as a guy that you were going to draft as a starter.
Yeah, I have him as tight end 13, and that is Jaguars tight end Brenton Strange. We are very different on him. You have him at tight end 22, which, fair enough, he is going as the tight end 22 in average draft position. So you're agreeing more with everyone else, and I'm really high on him. I think he has a real chance to break out in year 3 in the NFL. He's now stepping into a starting role in the new Liam Cohen offense. They've released Evan Ingram. Strange already had the second most receiving yards on the Jaguars last year. It wasn't much, just 411 yards. And he only saw 53 targets on the season. Well, Evan Ingram had the second most targets on the team in just 9 games played. He's gone. But in the 6 games last year that Strange saw at least 4 targets, which isn't much at all. I fully expect him. He needs to be averaging more than that to get close to 10 and 13. But he averaged 8.1 fantasy points per game. That's nothing like crazy or special, but that would have put him as the tight end 12 on average last year, tied with Tucker Kraft. Well, he's sitting at tight end 22 cost. And again, Tucker Kraft is going in the 9th round. Brenton Strange is going undrafted, right? And I think they have the same opportunity. Now, I don't expect Tucker Kraft to be the top target on his team. I don't expect Strange to be either. He is playing with Brian Thomas Jr. and, oh my goodness, Travis Hunter. I don't know why his name just blanked. So yeah, he should be 3rd target at best, but I think that's enough in this Liam Cohen offense. And those, when I was talking about those games with at least 4 targets, he only had 6 of them last year, but 3 of those games came in the final 4 weeks of the season. So he was starting to get utilized more. All those reasons, I think he has a real great shot of breaking out.
Yeah, and looking at some things in further review, and I'm looking at things at tight end. I'm not really comfortable. I'm going to just say this straight up, and just peeling back the curtain, 13 through 25. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to rank them. I really did not. I was like, okay, this consensus says here, this veteran is going to be here. But I do have Brenton Strange as a sleeper that everyone should be targeting. I like him to take him as a tight end 2, just to hedge your bets a little bit, because he could be disappointing. Just unknown quantities are there, but the environment says he can be very productive. Not only did he get more than 50 targets last year, there are 2 tight ends from last year, not just Evan Ingram, but Luke Farrell is also gone. So most of their vacated targets that are key, that are not being replaced directly, are at tight end. I mean, Hunter is going to replace what they lost at wide receiver, but tight end is a big chunk of targets available here for Brenton Strange to have a bigger role. He's had a great training camp. Again, it's just how do we get the execution right? Is this going to all come to fruition the way we're hoping for desperately with Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen? Is that all going to happen? There are some variables. There are some things you worry about. But in terms of the environment, the situation, the talent, it's all there for him to rise to where he's at. So I do like him. So really, my strategy is going to be a lot this year. Take a guy early and target one of these upside sleepers, and I think he's one of them. Now, it's interesting that I'm also going against the grain on somebody, and again, I don't see how the numbers say this person is not going to remain relevant in their offense. It is Zach Ertz. I am at 12 here. You have him actually a little bit higher than consensus at 18. He's going at tight end 19. I don't think Deebo Samuel just completely kills Zach Ertz's value. And by the way, what happened to Ben Sennett? Is anyone into Ben Sennett anymore? Are we done with that? Like, I don't know. Like, he's buried way there in the tight end ranking. So I don't think we think that's going to happen. But to me, Zach Ertz is a very trusted target for what Jaden Daniels wants to do and what Cliff Kingsbury wants to do. Work in the middle of the field, get open. He's still very athletic for being 34 years old. Look, I don't usually get excited about 34-year-old tight ends later in drafts, but look, we saw him. He was looking good down the stretch in the playoffs. Like, he was the go-to guy. And I get it. You have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, but keep in mind, this team lost a lot at wide receiver as well. So basically you're having Deebo fill that wide receiver gap, but they still need a third target to emerge on this team. And again, there's some chemistry, there's some usage, there's some trust. Ertz loves being out in the field with Daniels. It might be his favorite situation, even more so than what he had with the Eagles. So I'm really kind of like, hey, he's still plugging along. He hasn't hinted that he's going to hang it up. And he's shown us, I mean, even in the Arizona transition, that he has stuff left in the tank if he gets targeted. So, again, don't sleep on this old man Ertz. I know he's older, but come on. I mean, he's still – I mean, the last we saw of him was very productive versus some of these other tight ends which just left us underwhelmed.
Maybe. I don't know. I have him a tight end 18. I guess it is slightly higher than ADP. I'm not looking at him because I do think Deebo Samuel addition is a big deal. Last year, the second most targeted wide receiver was Olamide Zaccheaus at 64 targets. Like, they didn't trade for Deebo Samuel to give him 64 targets. Like, he's going to get 100 plus, right? Zach Ertz was second on this team at 91. I just don't see that replicating. He's going to be 35 years old. I think towards the end of the year, maybe he was a little bit more necessary, but still a ton of terrible games. 4 points, 6 points, 5 points, 2 points, 8 points, 1 point, 5 points, 3 points, 1 point. Like, how many games is that I just named? It's still horrendous games that he was just killing you. And some of his best games, 11 points, 12 points. Like, cool, he had one big blow-up game. I'm out on him. I do think Ben Sinnott, too, like you brought up, their second-round pick from last year, could get more time. He barely played last year. So I'm just out on Zach Ertz. So that's why we're different there. But one guy also that we're incredibly different on, but completely opposite age of Zach Ertz, it's rookie Colston Loveland, who went very early in the draft to the Bears. Shocking pick, first tight end taken over Tyler Warren. You have him as your tight end 18. I have him all the way down at tight end 28. Now, we are both much lower on him than his average draft position at tight end 13. He's going in the 10th round. That is absolutely wild to me because where are the targets coming from for him to be successful in year one? I mean, when we're looking for a tight end to break out or be good, we typically are looking for a tight end that could be the top target on his team or the second target on his team, or at worst, the third target on his team. Colston Loveland could be the fifth or sixth target on his team. Yes, so probably split snaps at best with Cole Kmet at the tight end position. Cole Kmet barely even got it done last year for anything. Like, I just don't see where the targets are for him at all.
Yeah, and some places have him in the top 12, which like, wait a second. And I think he's had a great training camp. Let's not deny that. And he looks like that there's a trust here. And I think what people are reacting to are Ben Johnson heaping praise not only on him, but Roma Dune saying, like, hey, you have DJ Moore. Like, do you feel good about him too? Like, I think that's coming into play, a lot of this, the praise and the hype. And Ben Johnson, does not hold back words when he's excited about a player. And I think he's excited about Loveland. But Odunze, he should be, right? They're both first-round picks on this team. Like, you should have some confidence in those players. But when I look at it, yeah, I mean, they have only 12 to 14, I think, somewhere there, vacated targets at tight end on this team. So Ben Johnson, I get it. He's going to put tight ends more on the field consistently with his 12 personnel. So there's a chance that he's going to run more routes, but you still have to compete with Moore and Odunze in those situations, right? Who are out there. Then we'll see if they want to play Luther Burden a little bit more and mix it up with 11 personnel and 12. So how many targets are they going to get? So they're going to have to spread the ball around quite a bit in this offense to be very effective, and that's not going to really help the tight ends. And I guess people are just pushing aside Cole Kmet like he's nothing. Like, he was a pretty good receiving tight end when needed just a couple years ago. So I don't know. I would just pump the brakes here. Look, this rookie tight end trend of them producing high has happened, but it also has to come in the right environment. And Warren is in a much better place to do it than Loveland this season.
Yes, I agree. Now, there are other rookies. There are some second-year tight ends that have upside to break out. Obviously, not talking about Brock Bowers or Tyler Warren or even Colston Loveland, who were drafted top 10 or top 15 in the NFL draft. But other guys that are going undrafted in fantasy leagues, but you should be keeping an eye on them because they do have a solid opportunity coming this year. We'll discuss that to close out today's show right after a quick break. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, like always, Vinnie and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and the updates they're rolling out this month are wild in the best way. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. But if you don't want to play that, if you're just more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, let's finish up our tight end talk with some rookie tight ends. There's 3 rookie tight ends drafted in the second round that I actually think could be in really great situations this year. And the top of that list has to be Jets tight end Mason Taylor. He's going undrafted in leagues, and I'm not really sure why, because if we're talking about a tight end who could break out, I mean, Mason Taylor is getting glowing reviews in camp. It seems like Justin Fields has been really relying on him. They drafted him early. And there's literally like the tight end competition. It's Jeremy Rucker and Stone Smart and Zach Kuntz. Like he has to just basically slide into the starting role. And they lost Devontae Adams. That's 114 targets gone from last year. They lost Tyler Conklin, 72 targets from last year, and really didn't add anything at all. And Mason Taylor, I think, has the ability to be that prototypical tight end in the league. Maybe like not the most elite receiving tight end, but he's good enough at it. And he's getting, what we want to hear from him out of camp. I'm actually pretty excited about Mason Taylor, and I do have him ranked as my tight end 17 going into his rookie season.
Yeah, I do appreciate the aggressiveness, Michelle. These are also guys, Strange and Mason Taylor, I have as deep sleepers to target for sure at sportingnews.com. You want to check that out. But yeah, this is a definite situation where the environment says it could be very fruitful, right? You have the Lions adjacent offense, which it did the tight end a lot of favors in Detroit. So you have that. You have also a very athletic player from LSU, a rising star, late in his college career. I mean, we know his story. I mean, Jason Taylor's son, Zach Thomas's nephew. You have plenty of athleticism there, even though that comes from the defensive side. So that's there. Fields and Taylor have developed a good chemistry. There's not a lot at wide receiver after Garrett Wilson either. So there are a lot of pieces that I like. It just comes down to the player executing with the quarterback at this point. And that's the only thing left. That's the biggest unknown. But a lot of things are known about the environment that would make it successful for Mason Taylor. So again, we're both higher than him. Then the consensus, he's down tight end 27. In some places, he's tight end 32 on the board. So we're still way ahead of maybe what people are thinking about. But again, everything lines up. Now, unlike the Colston Loveland situation, the environment is so much better. The only difference between Loveland and Taylor is where they were drafted, right? But the environment suits Taylor a lot more to be productive right away.
Absolutely. And then Elijah Arroyo for the Seahawks, also second round pick. He's going undrafted in fantasy. I mean, it's between him and AJ Barner, right? So the 4th round pick for them in the 2024 draft. They're competing for this starting job with the Seahawks. Now, Noah Fant was never good, a fantasy guy with the Seahawks, but new play caller, new quarterback. Maybe they utilize him more. Maybe Noah Fant just wasn't very good, and that's why they released him, right? Arroyo is, getting rave reviews at camp, turning heads, being used all over the field. I think that he probably has more upside than a guy like AJ Barner, but I still lean Mason Taylor, though, over Elijah Arroyo if I was taking a shot late. And then you also have Terrence Ferguson, 2nd round pick for the Rams. But with him, you have to worry about Matthew Stafford's health, and then the competition for snaps with Tyler Higbee, who's going to get the snaps over him to start the year. And then also you have 2 dominant wide receivers to compete for targets with, in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. So I don't think I'm going to get too cute to draft Ferguson or even look his way, but it's a guy to keep an eye on, especially if Tyler Higbee deals with an injury.
Yeah, Ferguson definitely is a good dynasty stash for 2026. I think he could really be factor. I mean, Higbee should be getting near the end here. You may want to hang it up here in 2026. So something to look at with Arroyo. I think this is what I would do actually with the Seahawks. I mean, you have Jackson Smith and Jurban Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, we know, has a share of durability issues. The 2 guys that are getting buzz are the 2 rookies here, Elijah Arroyo, and the 3rd receiver now is Torrey Horton, a 5th-round draft pick. So I think I would scratch those lottery tickets potentially, like take them late in drafts, because, again, either could be the 3rd key target on this team, and there could be a lot of passing volume on the Seahawks with Sam Darnold and Clint Kubiak calling the shots. So I definitely say, hey, take a shot at one of these guys late. I mean, I would be more excited to potentially start Mason Taylor sooner than later, but if I'm looking for a late dart throw to deeper league, Arroyo or Horton would be it in the Seahawks offense.
Now, there are some second-year guys that, we're still holding out hope that maybe can break out. You got Giants' Theo Johnson, drafted in the 4th round last year, going undrafted in fantasy leagues. Jatavian Sanders, my dude, with the Panthers. Tight end, 30 ADP. So basically, undrafted unless you're in a super deep league. Ben Sinnott, who we brought up earlier, 2nd round pick for the Commanders last year. He could get more opportunity, especially if there's a Zach Ertz injury. And then I brought up AJ Barner, who will be competing with Arroyo for that starting job with the Seahawks. Out of this group, who do you think has the best opportunity to break out and become a top 12 guy in their career in fantasy?
I think it would be Sanders for sure. I mean, I don't think it's a question. I think they are using a little bit of wide receiver by committee with Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker after Ted Earl McMillan there for Bryce Young. But I think Sanders, they still want to make a thing. He's got a lot of athletic talent. He's better than what they've had before in the Ian Thomas, Tommy Tremble era of tight ends, the post-Greg Olsen fallout. So I think of all the people post-Greg Olsen, Sanders as a receiving tight end has the best chance to do something of note in Carolina. I just want to see how the pecking order plays out between him, Thielen, and Coker. I think they'll all be in the mix there. I think McMillan will easily dominate the targets, but he's clear to the guy like Theo Johnson. I think Darius Slayton is still going to be a key factor here with Malik Neighbors, who, regardless of the quarterback, Sinnott is going to have to wait for Ertz, and there's just too many people there. And then Barner, of course, dealing with Arroyo. So easily for me, it's Jatavion Sanders. It might be Theo Johnson next, because I've liked some of his skill set. It just comes down to, will any of these 3 quarterbacks like him and throw to him enough?
Yeah, I really like Jatavian Sanders. I loved him coming out of Texas. I think he's a great receiving back. He's down some weight. He says he's faster. People are calling him the MVP of training camp, of the Panthers training camp. So really excited to see what he could do in year 2. It probably doesn't mean that you should draft him if you're in your normal leagues, but if you're in a super deep league or 2 tight end league, I think he's worth the shot of drafting. And he's just worth a shot of watching him, how they utilize him in week 1. And maybe he's a top priority pickup after that if he is a focal point of this offense. But yeah, I mean, there's this tight end group. I mean, it's getting deeper and deeper each year we go along. So very excited to see what they can do in fantasy this year. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We will be back on Monday, so I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching there. If you're listening on a podcast app, give us a subscribe, a like, a good review, all that good stuff. That all helps you. That helps us be here for you every day, helping you win your fantasy football leagues. We'll talk to you on Monday. Bye, y'all.